Hello YouTube and welcome to another Cisco tutorial. So in this video I'm gonna show you how to attack Cisco IOS devices which has an SNMP misconfiguration. So are you ready? Let's get started. So first thing first, what is SNMP? So actually SNMP stands for Simple Network Management Protocol. Okay, so it's an application layer protocol and it's used for device monitoring but also management. So it's a very famous protocol used in the network field. Okay, and most of the time we use it to get statistic like the CPU utilization, the RAM utilization, the temperature, the fan, etc. Okay, so it's widely used because it's simple and actually a lot of network vendors support it. Okay, that's why it's very famous. And actually we have three flavors of this, or three versions of that protocol. We have version 1, which is very old, and we have version 2C, which is actually a lot of use nowadays, but we have also version 3. But nowadays you will just find these two versions, 2C and the 3 version, and the 3 version is the most recent one, and it has strong authentication and also data encryption. Okay, but when we are using actually this SNMP protocol, Cisco offers us to use what we call access mode. So we have read-only access mode and we have read and write access mode also. So the read-only access mode allows us to retrieve just information like the CPU, as I told you, the temperature, etc. But for the read and write access mode, it allows us, in addition to retrieve information, is actually it can allows us to set or trigger actions. Okay, and this mode, I mean the read and write, which actually is a potential vulnerability for the Cisco IOS devices. So let me just show you a demonstration of that on my Cisco router, but as a disclaimer, you should not use that on other person or enterprise Cisco IOS devices. Use it for actually just educational purposes and for material that you own. So here I'm using it against my home router, Cisco router, and I will show you how I can set up SNMP on my router. So first thing first, let's set up actually SNMP on my router. So simple, I'm going to the privilege exec mode as usual. I guess I mistyped my password. Here we go. Now I'm going to the global config mode. Okay, here we go. So in order to configure SNMP, it's pretty simple. We type SNMP server. Okay, so this is the command, and after it you can do exclamation or interrogation mark in order to get the options. But the most important option here is this community. Okay, so enable SNMP set the community string. So that's what we call a community string. So I'm gonna type community, and here you can provide community string. So you can choose whatever word you want, but most of the time by default it was to use public as community string. But here let's set up something for our own. So let's call, for example, my community aminos. Okay, simple as that. So as I told you, you can set up whatever community you want. And we came to the most interesting parameter, which is the access mode. Okay, so here you can see that we can set up read-only access with this community string, but we can also set it for read and write access mode. Okay, and let's choose actually this. In order to show you the vulnerability, I will choose here the read and write access mode. Okay, so now we have set up our Cisco router in order to be SNMP client with the community string of aminos, and access mode here, as you can see, is set up as read and write. Okay, which is actually a potential vulnerability. So I'm gonna show you how we can exploit this vulnerability here. Okay, so in order actually to test it, we're gonna use Nmap, which is a very known scanning tool, and the best distribution that we can find all these utilities is of course Kali Linux. So let's move on to our Kali Linux and launch an Nmap. Okay, so this is our terminal in our actually Kali Linux box. So what I'm going to do is to launch a script that comes by default with Nmap. Okay, so here you can see the actually what I'm using here. So here I'm using the famous port of SNMP, which is 161. It's very famous. Whenever this port is open, you can be sure that the device is running SNMP. And here actually I'm running a script that comes with Nmap. So the script is called SNMP iOS-config, and by default, if you want to see all the script that comes with the Nmap, you can go to your file system, and let me show you here. You go to the user directory, okay, share, and you go to your folder application. So in this case it's Nmap. Okay, here we go, and you will find here a directory called scripts. So here you can find all the scripts that comes by default with Nmap, but if you didn't find the script here, you can just download it from the internet. Okay, and here as you can see, I'm using snmp.ios.config script, and with some arguments, and the most interesting arguments, or the very important one, is the community string. So here, you know, I typed the one that I have used on my Cisco router, okay, which is aminos. But you will tell me, how can I know the community string of the Cisco iOS devices? And I will tell you that there are many tools that allows you to perform an attack against Cisco iOS devices, and you retrieve actually the community string. So you can use, of course, Nmap also, but I will show you another video how you can do that. You can use a tool called 161 also. 161 also can perform a dictionary attack in order to get actually the community string of Cisco iOS devices. But you can also use the Hydra tool that I have shown you on my previous video. So the Hydra tool actually allows us also to retrieve the community string of Cisco iOS by performing a dictionary attack. Okay, so this is the most interesting part. Is here is the name of this community string, because actually the community string acts as an authentication. It's like a password actually. Okay, and finally here you provide the IP address of your Cisco iOS devices. So here my Cisco router has this as an IP address, and with this simple script, what can I perform actually is that I can download the whole configuration of my Cisco router. Yes, you can download the whole configuration of your Cisco router. So let's run it and verify that. Here we go. So Nmap is starting to scan the Cisco iOS devices, and here we go. You see, I get the whole configuration of my Cisco iOS devices just by providing the community actually string. Okay, so you see this vulnerability that exists when you set up SNMP in read-write access mode. And of course, if you have the configuration of your Cisco router, you can have a lot of information about the network. You can even crack this admin password that you see here because you have the encrypted version, so you can try to crack it if you want. But as I told you, it's a security breach that allows us to actually get this whole configuration of your Cisco router. Okay, but as I told you, this command actually read write at the end, it's the one responsible to get this vulnerability. So let's try now to change it to just read only. Okay, so I will disable this function here, and I will try to set up SNMP, but this time just to set it as read only access mode. Here we go. So let's try once again to execute the same script. Okay, so I'll execute the same script, and you will see this time I will not get actually the whole config of the Cisco router. Okay, so let's wait a little bit to see the result of this attack. Here we go. You see it has scanned our Cisco iOS router, but it was unable to get the whole config of the router. Okay, so from here you can actually prevent this attack just by using just read only access mode whenever you want. So don't use the read and write access mode unless you know what you're doing. So in order to prevent your Cisco iOS devices from getting attacked, you should always use the read only access mode. Okay, and there is another possibility. Don't use SNMP version 2C, use version 3, because as I told you, version 3 of SNMP offers strong authentication and also data encryption. Okay, so that was just a brief introduction to this Cisco iOS device SNMP misconfiguration that can lead to potential vulnerability. As always, I hope it has been informative for you, and I want to thank you for viewing. Bye bye.